What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to give you the top 5 signs of an elite level poker player. If you see anybody doing these 5 things at the poker table, it is likely they are a professional poker player. You might want to try to stay out of pots with them and focus on the other weaker players at the table. Let's jump into it, counting down from 5 to 1. Here we go. Number 5 is playing a loose and aggressive playstyle. So guys, I have mentioned this before in many of these videos and my books as well, that loose and aggressive is by far the #1 playstyle preferred by today's top poker pros and semi-pros. And the reason why is because this puts tremendous pressure on your opponents to have a hand. It is also a very aggressive playstyle that includes a lot of bluffs. And by the way, I'm going to walk you through examples of all of this in today's videos about how to make some of these high-level bluffs. So let's break this down in a little bit more detail for you. So loose, that means you're playing a lot of hands. I've made videos here on the channel before talking about what hands to play. I also have charts and diagrams in my free poker cheat sheet showing you what hands to play. That will be the top link in the description below. But a loose and aggressive play style is going to go much beyond this. We're going to play hands like a 7-4 of hearts, as you see on your screen there. So I want to be very, very clear that this style of play is not for beginners. I don't recommend playing a 7-4 of hearts in any of my charts. This is a video for advanced level poker players who are wanting to take their game to the next level. So let's walk you through an example. You raise up 7-4 of hearts and a nit calls you. Now this is very, very critical to this hand is the player type. A nit is the tightest player at the table, also often referred to as a rock. This is the kind of player who is basically sitting around waiting for pocket aces, pocket kings, or they're set mining you with a hand like pocket sixes or pocket fives, or they're playing some sort of suited connector, they're trying to hit a straight, or maybe they have a hand like queen jack. Basically a very tight range. This is the kind of player who is never playing a hand like 7-4. This is a player who is very, very disciplined, and so basically they play their hand face up. So you can probably see where I'm going with this. This is the kind of player who is the easiest to bluff, and this is going to be one of our prime targets as a loose and aggressive poker player, is bluffing these players in particular. So the flop comes down with the king 6-3 with the king of hearts, 6 of spades, and 3 of diamonds. Totally harmless flop. Rainbow board, meaning 3 different suits, so there's no flush draw available on this flop. But basically, guys, this is an excellent flop for us to continue on. Not only does this flop totally smack our range with the king on the board, that's a card that's in our perceived range. This is something that I talk about in detail in my first book, Crushing the Micro Stakes. But also, we have hit a gut shot straight draw on this board. If it came with a 5 on the turn or river, we would make a straight. And also, we have a backdoor flush draw in our back pocket, which is always nice. If it comes with a heart on the turn and river, we're also going to make a nearly unbeatable hand with a flush. So guys, this is a slam dunk spot, especially against this player type, to make a bet here. We know that a player like this is going to throw away all of their hands, like an ace queen, an ace jack, an ace 10, a queen jack. Often a player like this will even fold a pair sometimes, like an ace 3, a pocket 2s, a pocket 4s. So guys, this is an absolute slam dunk spot for us to make a bet here, but they call. So what that means is that they probably have something. When a tight player like this makes a call on a totally harmless board like this, they probably have something, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have top pair or something really strong. They might have a hand like pocket 7s, they might have a hand like pocket 8s, and they're not quite ready to go away yet. So let's give them a reason to go away when the turn comes with the queen of diamonds. Guys, you should be betting again here. This is the heart and soul of a loose and aggressive strategy, is applying tremendous pressure against weaker player types like this who are looking for a reason to fold. Yes, it's true, they could be on the top of their range sometimes, and we're going to talk about that, by the way, in a little bit here, that sometimes they are going to have the king queen or the king jack here, and you're going to look a little bit foolish, bluffing into the nuts. But so many other times, guys, they're just holding on with a hand they don't want to fold yet, like a pocket 5s, like a pocket 7s, like an ace jack. We can use another high card like this, guys, to make them go away. Remember, we have nothing at all here. We literally beat nothing at this point. So in order to win this pot, we need to bluff, and this is the perfect card, the perfect player type to do this against. So let's move on to sign number 4 now of an elite level poker player, and that is that they never bluff a calling station. Now, we just talked about bluffing the tight, weak players. We need to talk about the players you do not want to bluff now, and you can probably already guess that's going to be the fish, of course, the recreational poker players, because I'm sure, as you know already, they don't fold anything. If they've got bottom pair, if they've got any draw, heck, if they've got king high, they're going to call you down. So let me give you an example once again. We're continuing on with our loose and aggressive play styles, and we're going to be raising up a jack-8 of diamonds here. Again, I don't actually suggest playing this hand in my normal charts that I include in my free poker cheat sheet, for example, which once again I'll link up in the description below. This hand is not in the charts in my free poker cheat sheet, but again, this is an advanced video. We're talking about playing a loose and aggressive playstyle here, so I'm going to be playing much more hands like this that is more recommended for those of you guys who are already playing poker at an advanced level. So we raise up jack-8 of diamonds, and the fish calls you. All right, so flop comes down with the ace of clubs, 7 of spades, and 4 of diamonds. Once again, not a bad flop. This flop definitely smacks our perceived range again. And by the way, I should have explained before what perceived range means. It just means that when we're the pre-flop raiser, typically they're going to put us on hands that have cards like an ace, a king, a queen, a jack in them. So a flop like an ace 7-4 or the king 6-3 in the previous example are really, really good flops for us to represent on, because those are the exact cards that they are putting us on. So ace 7-4, excellent flop once again. You bet, they call. So we know this is a different player type. This is a fish. We know that this is the kind of player that will call us with anything. They will call us here with king queen, king jack, whereas the nit in the previous example, I expect those players to fold that hand. I expect this player to call with any pair if they've got pocket twos, if they've got 4-5, if they've got 7-5. The fishy poker player type is absolutely going to call you here. So that's okay. We know that we can still make a profit by trying to apply pressure on the flop. Let's go see the turn now. So the turn comes with the queen of hearts. What should you do in this spot? Well, guys, this is the spot where you want to take the exact opposite approach of the previous hand. You want to just be check folding. When I say check fold, I mean you check here, and versus any kind of significant bet, you're going to be folding, because we essentially have nothing on this board, guys. We have no draw, we have nothing, and we're up against a fishy player type who is telling us that they have something. Guys, even if this player only has king jack, which is also nothing, that nothing is well ahead of our nothing. So guys, in a situation like this, do not bluff a calling station. And a calling station, by the way, is this specific player type, a fish. They don't fold anything, so you don't want to be trying to make another bluff here or doing something fancy. Guys, the heart and soul of an elite level world-class poker player is not only knowing when to put their foot on the gas pedal, but it's also knowing when to put their foot on the brake. All right, guys, let's move on to sign number 3 of an elite level poker player, and that is that they will 4-bet you pre-flop, and I should have put there frequently. So guys, all elite poker players know to fight harder before the flop for the pot. A lot of amateur poker players, in contrast, will just call and just hope to hit a good flop. That's not really a good strategy in poker, in life, and anything, is just sitting around hoping, and that's why the best poker players will find additional ways to win the pot right now. Let me give you an example. You've got ace 4 of diamonds here, and a tag 3-bets you before the flop. Now let me actually explain, by the way, what 3-betting and 4-betting is. For some of you beginners watching this video, a 3-bet before the flop in poker is when there is a raise and then there is a re-raise. That re-raise is the 3-bet, and then if there is another re-raise, that is called the 4-bet. And basically a 4-bet in poker, assuming you started with around 100 big blinds, it essentially draws a line in the sand and it says, look, I have a very, very strong hand. You need to fold right now or you're going to lose all your money. Basically, it strikes the fear of God into people, because typically a raise in poker, again, assuming 100 big blinds stacked, the original raise is going to be around to 3 big blinds. The re-raise is typically to about 9 big blinds, and then the re-raise, the 4-bet, is typically to around 20, 21, 22 big blinds, which is nearly 1/4 of your stack. So you can see where we're going here with the math. There's not a whole lot more room to maneuver. If somebody calls your 4-bet, they're nearly pot committing themselves. So basically you're telling them, look, we're playing for stacks right now. So obviously we don't have the nuts here, and the nuts, by the way, is a slang term in poker for the best hand possible, or one of the best hands possible, which would be hands like pocket aces, pocket kings, pocket queens, ace king. We don't have any of those, but we have ace 4 of diamonds, which is a nice little hand which blocks several of those hands. We have an ace in our hand, so it makes it statistically less likely that they have an ace also in their hand. And also, crucially, this hand has a lot of equity versus hands like pocket kings, pocket queens, pocket jacks. When I say equity, I just mean odds to win the pot. This hand typically has around 30 to 35% chances of winning the pot, which is significant versus those hands. So I love making a light 4-bet, and I say light because, again, this is not the best hand in the world. If they go all in here, I'm folding immediately. This is a bluff. I need to be very clear about that. But these are the kind of advanced plays, this light 4-betting strategy that the best poker players in the world are using these days, because, again, guys, this puts tremendous pressure on a decent player. And by the way, I should have explained the player type here. Tag stands for tight and aggressive. This is a decent player in today's games. This is the kind of player who is able to make a fold with a hand like pocket nines, pocket tens here, ace queen. It is a huge victory for us here if we can get those hands to fold when we have a hand like ace four. On the flip side, most amateur players here will just call, hope to hit a flop, and you can already see where that's going. You're gonna miss the flop most of the time. You're just gonna lose the hand. So guys, try some of these advanced strategies again, but I want to be clear, you want to be only doing this against good players as you move up the stakes. If you are a total beginner to the game of poker watching this video, I would not recommend using this strategy in super low stakes because they're just gonna call you. All right guys, let's move on to sign number 2 of elite level poker players, and that is that they aren't afraid to look foolish. Now, I already alluded to this a little bit before earlier on in the video, is that sometimes guys, you're going to get called. Your bluffs are going to get called. That's what we're talking about in today's videos, is playing a loose and aggressive style of play. And with this style of play, you're gonna get called sometimes guys, and you're gonna have egg all over your face and you're gonna look like a fool at the poker table. But the best poker players understand how to analyze a bluff and ask themselves, was this profitable or not? And if it was, then they don't have any fear of looking foolish. I'm gonna give you an example once again. So you raise up 8-7 of diamonds on the button and a tag, tight and aggressive, calls you in the big blind. So typical spot here, and we're gonna run a highly complex bluff firing all 3 streets, flop, turn, and river on the 9-4-10 king ace board. Now there's no possible flush draw by the river here. We have 8 high on the river. We fire the ultimate bluff and the tag snap calls us with king queen, and obviously we lose the hand. But was this a bad play though? Should we feel ashamed of ourselves and doubt ourselves? Well, no guys, because actually this was a profitable bluff. Let's break this down in more detail. 9-4-10 flop. This is a typical spot here. We've got an open-ended straight draw. When a tag player checks to us here, remember we're in position here, we're on the button. When they check to us on the flop here, we're just going to be betting nearly 100% of the time. They call, turn comes down with the king of clubs. Really good scare card. I talk about this in detail, by the way, in my Elite Poker University training. 17 plus hours of advanced poker lessons, 50 plus videos, and there is an entire 45-minute video in there talking about specifically how to double barrel, that is betting the turn, on a perfect scare card like this, because this is often going to get folds versus the middle and lower portions of their range. They call, and then the river comes down with the ultimate scare card, the ace of diamonds, so we're absolutely going to be betting again here. Again, I also have an entire video in my course talking about how to fire on the river like this when you have nothing as well. So guys, in a nutshell, this is a textbook triple barrel bluff here that is going to work a lot of the time, and we just happen to run into the top of this player's range in this situation. Guys, good players aren't afraid to look foolish. Sometimes they're just going to have something really good and you're going to get called. It doesn't mean that this was a bad bluff. All right guys, let's move on to the number 1 sign of all elite level poker players, and that is that they are capable of making the big fold. So guys, having coached hundreds of students at the small and mid stakes games, I can tell you one of the biggest things that holds them back is not being able to fold a 1 pair hand. Perhaps this is something you struggle with. Honestly, I'm not perfect. We all struggle with it at times, especially when you have a big hand like pocket aces or pocket kings. Let's jump into an example once again. So you raise up 2 red aces, ace of hearts, ace of diamonds in early position, and a nit calls you on the button. So once again, this is one of the tightest players at the table. Flop comes down with a 9-4-3 rainbow. You bet they call. Totally standard spot. Probably don't need to explain this one in detail. The most harmless board ever. There's no draws, there's no flush draw, there's no straight draw. So you bet they call. Not a disaster. We know that this player could definitely be calling with a hand like pocket jacks, pocket tens. We're going to assume if they have pocket kings or pocket queens that they would have re-raised as pre-flop, so I'm discounting those hands. I also think that this player could have some suited connectors, like an 8-9 of diamonds, for example. They're probably going to call with that hand. They might be calling us here with a pocket 8s, pocket 7s. There is one straight draw on this board, a 5-6. I think that they will call us with that. I think you guys get the idea. This isn't a total disaster we get called here. We're still probably going to be ahead the vast majority of the time. So the turn comes down with a 10 of clubs. And guys, this is another no-brainer spot to just make another bet for value, but they raise. What is going on here? Well, guys, the alarm bells need to be going through your brain at this point, because the tightest player at the table has just called us pre-flop, called on the flop, and then they've raised us now on the turn. Guys, I can tell you from my nearly 20 years in this game, 10 plus years as a professional, this is literally never a bluff. Nits are not only the tightest players at the table, table, but they are usually the most passive players as well. If they have a hand like pocket jacks here, they're just going to call again. No, when they raise you on the turn here, they're representing a very, very narrow range of hands, specifically hands like pocket 10s, pocket 9s, pocket 4s, and pocket 3s. Guys, they literally have one of those hands greater than 90% of the times here, and you are drawing very, very slim, less than 5% chance to win versus those hands, and therefore the best poker players in the world are able to recognize the situation here and fold their one pair hand. Guys, pocket aces, pocket kings, they are not a license to print money. Sometimes you need to know when to lay them down. Alright guys, like and subscribe if you found this video helpful, and if you want to know my entire strategy to beat the small and mid-stakes games, make sure to grab a copy of my free poker cheat sheet. That'll be the top link in the description below. Thanks a lot for watching guys, I will catch you next time.